that's a really tough one to say. If there's super intelligent aliens out there, they're probably already observing us. That will be quite likely we're not smart enough to realize it. But I can do some back of the envelope calculations, and any advanced alien civilization that is at all interested in populating the galaxy, even without exceeding the speed of light, if you are only moving at say 10 or 20% speed of light, it could populate the entire galaxy in, let's say, 10 million years, maybe 20 million years max. This is not saying in the grand scheme of things. Want to say you want to die on Mars. Why? To be clear, I don't want to die on Mars. It's like if you're going to die someday, and if you're going to pick some place to die, then why not Mars? If you're born on Earth, why not die on Mars? Seems like maybe quite exciting. But I think that giving choice between dying on Earth and dying on Mars, I say yes, sure, I'll die on Mars, but it's not kind of Mars death wish. And if I do die on Mars, I still want to go on impact. Let's come back to Earth actually. If you tweeted that you are building a tunnel under Washington DC, why? What is it? It's a secret plot. Just between us. Nobody helps you? Yeah, exactly. Let's keep that secret. I think that is going to sound a little... it seems like so much trivial or silly, but I've been saying this for many years now, but I think that the solution to urban construction is a network of tunnels under cities. And when I say I don't mean a 2D plan of tunnels, I mean tunnels that go many levels deep. So you can always go deeper than you can go up. Like the deepest mines are deeper than the tallest building. So you can have a network of tunnels that is 20, 30, 40, 50 levels, as many levels at once really. And so given that you can overcome the construction situation in any city in the world, the challenge is how do you build tunnels quickly and at low cost and with high safety. So if tunnel technology can be improved to the point where you can build tunnels fast, cheap, and safe, then that would completely get rid of any traffic situations in the cities. And so that's what I think is important technology. And Washington DC, LA, and most of the major American cities, most major cities in the world suffer from severe traffic issues. And it's mostly because you've got these buildings, the tallest building in the city, and you have a road network that is one level. And then people generally want to go in exactly 10 times, so then you get the traffic jam. Let's come back to your year in Dubai. The first time I met you was the 4th of June 2015 at your office spaces. And I asked you, would you have a presence in UAE? And your answer was, I'm busy with China, maybe not in the near future. And almost a year and a half later, we're here. Seems time goes quite fast. Why now? I think actually things are going really well in China. So we have some initial challenges figuring out charging and service infrastructure and various other things, but now it's actually going really well, and so the timing seems to be good and to really make a significant debut in this region starting in Dubai. In your opinion, what is the new disturbing thing that will come next in technology. What's next in technology? What's next in technology? That will disturb the way we live, the way we think, the way we do business. Well, the most near-term impact from a technology standpoint is autonomous cars, like fully self-driving cars. I say that's going to happen much faster than people realize. And that's it's going to be very convenient to be in an autonomous car, but there are many people whose job is to drive. So if in fact it might be the single largest employer of people is driving in various forms, and so then we need to figure out the rules for what do these people do, and it will all be very disruptive and very quick. I should characterize what I mean by quick, because they are quick means different things to different people. There are 2 billion vehicles in the world, approaching in fact 2.5 billion cars and trucks in the world. The total new vehicle production capacity is about 100 million, which makes sense because the life of the car before its value is scrapped to about 20-25 years. So the point at which we see full autonomy appear will not be the point at which there is massive societal people, because it will take a long time to make enough autonomous vehicles to disrupt employment. So that disruption I'm talking about will take place over about 20 years. Still, 20 years is a short period of time to have, I think, something like 12-15% of the workforce being unemployed. Thank you. This is the largest global government summit we have, over 139 governments here. If you want to advise government officials to be ready for the future, what 3 pieces of advice can you give them? Well, I think the first bit of advice is to really pay close attention to the development of artificial intelligence. I think we need to be just very careful in how we adapt artificial intelligence, and to make sure that researchers don't get carried away, because sometimes what happens is scientists can go engrossed in the work. They don't necessarily realize the ramifications of what they're doing. So I think it's important for public safety that governments keep a close eye on artificial intelligence and make sure that it does not represent a danger to the public. Let's see, secondly, I'll say we do need to think about transport in general, and there's the movement towards electric vehicles and sustainable transport. I think it's gonna be good for many reasons, but again, not something that happens immediately. That's going to happen slower than self-driving vehicles, because that's probably something that happened over 30 or 40 years, this transition to electric vehicles. So thinking about that in context, the demand for electricity will increase dramatically. So currently, in terms of total energy usage in the world, is about one third transport, about one third heating. So over time, it will transition to almost all, not all, but predominantly electricity, which means that the demand for electricity would probably triple. So it's going to be very important to think how so much electricity, and it's since they have an easy job, that's it. There are no more challenges for them. No, well, I think maybe these things do play into each other a little bit, but what to do about mass employment? This is going to be a massive social challenge, and I think ultimately we'll have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we can have a choice. Universal basic income, I think it's going to be necessary. So it means that unemployed people will be paid across the globe, because there are no jobs, machines, robots are taking over. There are fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. That's simply, and I want to be clear, these are not things that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. And so if my assessment is correct and that probably will happen, then we need to say what are we going to do about it, and I think some kind of universal basic income is going to be necessary. Now the output of goods and services will be extremely high, so automation, there will come abundance. There will be almost everything will get very cheap. So I think we just end up doing a universal basic income is going to be necessary. The much harder challenge is, how do people then have meaning? Like a lot of people, they derive their meaning from their employment. So if you don't if you don't need it, if there's not a need for your labor, what's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Do you feel useless? That's a much harder problem to deal with. And how do we ensure that the future is going to be the future that we want, that we still like? I mean, I do think that there's a potential path here, which is, I'm really getting into science fiction or sort of advanced science stuff, but having some sort of merger with biological intelligence and machine intelligence. To some degree, we are already a cyborg. Do you think of like the digital tools that you have, your phone, your computer, the applications that you have, like the fact that I mentioned earlier, you can ask a question and easily get an answer from Google or from other things. And so you already have a digital touchery layer. I say touchery because you can think of a limbic brain. Cortex kind of thinking, planning part of the brain, and then your digital self as a third layer. So you already have that. I think if somebody dies, the digital ghost is still around. Or the emails, the pictures that they posted in the social media, that still lives even if they die. So over time, I think we probably see a closer merger and digital intelligence, and mostly about the bandwidth, the speed of connection between your brain and the digital extension of yourself, particularly output. And if anything is getting worse, we used to by keyboards that we do most of our input through our thumbs on a phone, and that's just very slow. A computer can communicate at 1 trillion bits per second, but your thumb can be to maybe 10 bits per person if you're being generous. So some high bandwidth interface to the brain, I think, will be something that helps to achieve symbiosis between human and machine intelligence, and maybe solves the control problem and the usefulness problem. I'm going to be pretty saturated here. It's close, we got it. Always you think out of the box. Your ideas are so huge. You want to go to space, you decided to go to space, you did it. You decided that you wanted to land your rocket back and you failed 7 times, 8 times? Yeah, something like that. That land 4 times at a carry count. How do you come with these ideas actually? Sometimes they're pushing the human limit. You're always pushing the human limit. Why? I think about what technology solution is necessary in order to achieve a particular goal and then try to make as much progress in that direction as possible. So in case of the space flight, the critical breakthrough that is necessary in space flight is rapid and complete reusability of rockets, just as we have for aircraft. You can imagine that if an aircraft was a single use, almost no one would fly, because you can buy like say 747, maybe 20, $50 million, $300 million. You need 2 of them for a round trip, but nobody's going to pay millions of dollars for a ticket to fly, to do air travel. So, but because you can reuse the aircraft tens of thousands of times, the air travel becomes much more affordable. And the same is true of rockets. Our rocket costs $16 million, so a capital cost, if it can be used once, in $16 million. But if the capital cost, if it can be used 1,000 times, is $60,000. So then if you can carry a lot of people for a flight, and then you can get the cost of space flight to be something not far from the cost of air flight. So it's really fundamental, because Earth's gravity is quite deep. Earth has a fairly high gravity. The difficulty of making a rocket reusable is much greater than the difficulty of making an aircraft reusable. That's why a fully reusable rocket hasn't been developed that far. But if you use the most advanced materials, the most advanced design techniques, and you get everything just right, and I'm confident that you can do a fully reusable rocket. Fortunately, if Earth's gravity was even 10% stronger, I would say it wouldn't be impossible. You need a team around you to deliver a lot of ideas. How do you choose your team? Based on what? Well, I suppose honestly that it tends to be the gut feeling more than anything else. So when I interview somebody, the main question is quite the same. It's what you ask. I say, tell me the story of your life and decisions that you made along the way and why you made them. And also tell me about some most difficult problems you worked on and how you solved them. And that question, I think, is very important, because the people that really solve the problem, they know exactly how they solved it. They know the little details. And the people that pretended to solve the problem, they can maybe go one level and then they get stuck. So, what was your biggest challenge in life? Biggest challenge in life? No challenge. Well, no, there's a lot of them. I'm trying to sort which is the worst. I think just thinking how to spend time. One of the biggest challenges, I think, is making a collective feedback loop, and then maintaining that collective feedback loop over time, even when people won't tell you exactly what you want to hear. That's very difficult. Time is over. I will ask you just one last question, if you let me. In the World Government Summit, we have so many young people actually from across the globe. If you have an advice to them, young people globally who want to be like Elon Musk, what's your advice to them? I think that probably they shouldn't want to be. I think it sounds better than it is. Yeah, it's not as much fun being me as you think. You don't think so? It could be worse for sure. But I'm not sure I want to be me. I think my advice is if you want to make progress in things, I think that the best analytical framework for, I'll say in the future, is physics. I recommend studying the thinking process around physics, like not just equations. The equations are certainly very helpful, but the way of thinking in physics is the best framework for understanding things that are counterintuitive, and always take the position that you're some degree wrong and your goal is to be less wrong over time. One of the biggest mistakes people generally make is wishful thinking. Like you want something to be true even if it isn't true, and so you ignore the real truths because of what you want to be true. And this is a very difficult trap to avoid. Like I said, it's certain one that I find myself in having problems with. But if you just take that approach to you're always some degree wrong and your goal is to be less wrong. Solicit critical feedback, particularly from friends. Like friends, if somebody loves you, they want the best for you. They don't want to tell you the bad things. So you have to ask them and say, I do really want to know. And then they'll tell you, thank you very much. It's great for the World Government Summit to have a legend who is creating the future for humanity, to share his thoughts, his ideas, his visions, his challenges, and his hope for life. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.